Women do not belong in politics. I don't mean this in some kind of mean way or any kind of anti-female rhetoric. This is not a video trying to fight against women in any way, shape, or form. But it's time we start being honest with ourselves. The majority of Republicans and even conservatives will fold on this subject. They'll say, of course women belong in politics. Absolutely. But here's the truth. Our country has majorly fallen apart because of the way women have been voting. 57% of women voted for Biden in 2020. 52% of men voted for Trump. The reason Biden won in 2020 was because of the female vote. That is why he won. Women, they think emotionally, right? They don't think from a logic-based standpoint, and this is good. This is a good thing for society. We want women thinking emotionally because that kind of contradicts a little bit of the completely logistical thinking of men. This makes it so we have a little bit more compassion in our world. It's a good thing to have emotion. It's good to have emotional people. But they also should not be the ones making these major decisions in our country's politics. Like I said before, Donald Trump would be our president right now if men were the one voting. This is because men, they think logically. It's incredibly important to think from a logical point of view in the political world. Most of what propaganda does, especially today, is it appeals to emotion. It tries to make you feel bad and it tries to make you hate the opposing candidate. This both sides do this because they both know how excellent of a strategy this is, especially in a world that has gotten so feminine and emotional today. Fighting off of emotion is the best thing you can do, right? It is the best thing. It's how you win an election by convincing people, emotional people specifically, that the other side is evil and that they are going to hurt people. Logically, people who think logically, they can see past this, right? They don't just take in all this information and get emotionally worked up and start making decisions based off of that. They can take a break, take a step back, and observe. This is why Stoicism, for example, is so important. It allows us to overcome our emotions and take a step back and observe what's really going on. Women don't do this. There's exceptions, of course. Absolutely. Of course, there are always exceptions. There are women out there who would honestly make a better president. There are lots of women who would make a better president of the United States than Joe Biden does. But that doesn't mean the best female president would be better than the best male president, because it's not true. Like I said, they get emotional over subjects. Women, you can feed them propaganda easier because if you can get them worked up, you've won them over already. That's all you have to do to take control of the mind of a woman. Just get them emotionally worked up, and then you have complete control over her. Very, very easy to manipulate, honestly. This is why, like, pimps are a thing of our history, right? Because these guys, they break women down and then emotionally manipulate them. Because it's not all that difficult to do. And it's wrong. And what we are doing in today's world is by exposing women to politics, we are allowing the country to emotionally manipulate and take down women. That is a disgusting thing we are allowing. We are allowing our country, our politicians, to scare and fearmonger the crap out of women because they know they win the election if they can get the majority of women on their side. This is what Joe Biden did. He emotionally attacked and he fearmongered. He fearmongered the crap out of the country. This is what Democrats have been trying to do for a while. This is what Hillary Clinton attempted to do and luckily failed in 2016. They try to emotionally manipulate and destroy because they know that if they can get these 55+% of women voting on their side, they win the election. Especially since women have a higher voting turnout. You can get the majority of women, you win. So all you have to do is fearmonger. And that's how you win the election. That is sad and scary and not good for our country. Do we really want to have a country that can be completely swayed off of emotion? Is that what you want? Do you want emotion guiding your country? This isn't a good thing. This is why we shouldn't have a female president. because, like I said before, she can be swayed by emotion incredibly easily. We need people who think logically in the political sphere. We need people who can actually understand and take a step back instead of just jumping on something and getting worked up over it. Because when you get worked up, you've already lost. When you get worked up, your brain is controlled, your mind is controlled. When you get worked up, you lose your own control. You can't think for yourself anymore. That's how you get brainwashing, honestly. That's what they do. They get someone worked up, they try to make them release as much emotion as possible and then start pumping in ideas because that's when the human brain it just starts sucking everything in because it gets so deeply emotional. I mean, it's awful that we allow this to happen to our women. And also, not to mention, the whole voting thing kind of destroyed marriage to an extent. Before, a woman, she'd have to marry a man who agreed with her on values, right? Because his vote was the household's vote. So she wants to marry a man and have kids with a man that she agrees with from a value standpoint. You think these relationships aren't going to last 3 years because of a fight breaks out over politics? These people, they agree with each other from a deep standpoint. And when you have like these deep agreements, when you actually like care about each other and you have the same baseline values, you can kind of save your relationship. You can work together and you can work it out. When your baseline values are different, though, the tower is going to crumble. I mean, that's what's going to happen. The tower will fall when the values are different. And allowing marriage to get out of a one vote per household, that allowed this to happen. That took down a lot, right? That destroyed marriage to an extent. And it's just awful to see. So, what we have done by involving women in politics is we broke them down emotionally. We fearmongered the family. We took it apart. We destroyed the institution of marriage. And our country is becoming worse and more liberal every single year. We know women by majority vote Democrat. We know men by majority vote Republican. Our country would look much more conservative, and it would be much more traditional if men were the ones voting. But most conservatives are too scared to talk about this because they know that people will be mad because they have been fed this propaganda since birth of feminism, right? This has just been pumped into their brain so they can't accept the idea that maybe the country would be a little better if women were out of politics. That's just the truth. Emotional people do not belong in leadership positions. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. And honestly, today, like women, they kind of have a place in politics because men have become so feminine. There are plenty of women. I mean, look at the internet. Look at Savannah Hernandez, for example. Honestly, I'd probably vote her in the office if I had a vote. Carrie Lake was an excellent candidate, but that's because men have become so feminine that even a feminine woman has more control over emotion and would make a better leader than your average man. So honestly, today this argument is almost void because men have become so weak. We can't remove women from politics until we make men strong again, and then we do need to start pushing back towards that because our country started to fall when the 19th was put into place. So that's what we need to do. Make men masculine is step one, and start taking women out of politics is step two. And this doesn't mean completely, this doesn't mean take away their voice. Women should still speak up. When they care, they should speak up. And the vote should be between the man and the woman. He needs to represent her well, and it's a big responsibility. And I'm not saying 100% we should take away women's rights to vote, because I don't know if that's the best way to go about it. Because it is good to have their voice, and I do believe it's a risk shutting any group's voice off, because that's how they get taken advantage of, to be quite frank with you. But it is interesting how different our country would look, and how much more conservative and how much more traditional it would be if men were the only ones voting. But that's all I have for you guys today. If you made it this far and you got something out of it, go ahead and like and subscribe. This has been Strange Investigations. I have been Ron Swanson, signing off. Once again, so long, peace out, and God bless y'all.